Tesla's highly anticipated shareholder meeting. It is happening next week. Among the items on the agenda, the shareholder vote on Elon Musk's pay package. Joining us right now is someone who's been very outspoken about all of this, and we've had a number of debates. I imagine we're going to continue that right now. Ann Lipton, associate professor in business law and entrepreneurship at Tulane. And it's nice to see you this morning. You have some supporters in Glass Lewis, ISS to some degree. You have a number of big shareholders who are on the other side of you. And a Morgan Stanley report this morning suggesting that a majority of Tesla shareholders actually want to vote in favor of the package. What say you?
Shareholders are welcome to vote however they like. I'm not really taking a position on how they should vote. My position is more that it's not obvious that the vote is going to do what they think it is. It's legally questionable whether or not he can undo the judge's ruling with this vote. So we may just be headed to a lot more litigation.
Can you explain to the audience if, in fact, you're right and that no matter what the outcome of this vote is, that somehow it is going to be brought to court and that a judge is going to overturn the vote? What would happen next? And let me also just ask you, just from a governance perspective, what you think should happen. Meaning, I imagine you think Elon Musk should be paid something. I imagine you think he should probably be paid a lot, maybe not as much. I would imagine because you think it's waste at this point. But what is supposed to happen at this point?
Well, okay, so let's start with, if the shareholders vote in favor of it,
yes,
then there will be a challenge in Delaware Chancery before the same judge, Chancellor McCormick, claiming that this vote simply just, you can't undo this prior ruling for various reasons, including that you can't award someone this much money for services they've already performed, that the shareholders are essentially being blackmailed into voting for the pay package because he's threatening he's going to take Tesla resources and develop AI in his other companies. So there are going to be those kinds of legal challenges if the shareholders vote in favor. So we just don't know that it would have that effect. As far as what kind of pay package you should get, I'm not a compensation expert. All I can say is he has, and this is one of the points that's being made by Glass Lewis, is that he has 13% of the company right now. He has lots and lots of incentives to bring the stock price up without additional pay package. And also, this is not a pay package going forward, and there's every reason to think that there will be a new pay package going forward, and that one will be done, in accordance with the way these things are usually done. Talking to a compensation consultant, talking about what goals are reasonable, talking about what's necessary to achieve those goals. And that's all possibly on the table going forward. So it's just not clear what work this ratifying the past package would do.
Do you believe, so here's the hard part for me. I believe that Elon Musk was working under the assumption and under a contract, an actual contract. Now, the contract has been undone, but a contract nonetheless. So he worked all those years under that contract, and now he's not getting paid that money. Do you believe that he could, and I believe there's a fair, well, I won't say what I believe. Do you believe that he could sue the company?
This has been floated. Anyone can file a lawsuit. No one's barring the doors of the courthouse. So what you're asking is whether or not the lawsuit is likely to be successful. And here's the problem with that. There is definitely a legal theory that says I performed work for you, I performed a benefit for you, and therefore you should pay me in fairness to compensate me for my efforts. He could absolutely file a lawsuit claiming something along those lines.
Not just that, but that the contract itself was something that he was working he was working under a specific contract with specific metrics which he was supposed to hit.
Right. Well, the problem with that, with the contract theory, is that you can undo contracts, governance contracts, if they were created in violation of fiduciary duties. And that's exactly what she found, that he violated his fiduciary duties to Tesla by essentially interfering with the board's deliberations and that the company misled shareholders about the details of the contract. And therefore, you can undo contracts in fairness on that. So then you're left with this general theory that if you perform work for somebody and you haven't been paid, that they should pay you the value of your services.
Right. Well, and that's what I want. But I want to ask you about that, which is a slightly different question, because you've also suggested that they can't effectively pay you back, like back pay. And that doesn't make sense to me in that there's a lot of companies that pay people bonuses at the end of the year that effectively is the equivalent of back pay. That's what it is. You've also made the suggestion that somehow he's blackmailing folks, and I'm not going to even suggest that he is or he isn't, but I would say that every employee, to one degree or another, has the opportunity at any moment to say, I'm out. I don't want to do this. And that unto itself, it sounds like to you, would be considered blackmail. And I don't really understand that because everybody has that right, technically.
Okay, but that's not at all what I'm arguing. He absolutely has the right to say, I will walk away from Tesla unless I get my back pay. The problem is he hasn't said that. He's very explicitly not said that. Nothing in that the company has ever said has said that. Chancellor McCormick found that he has no intention of walking away from Tesla. What he is saying is, pay me or I will remain at Tesla while taking Tesla's resources to use in my private companies. That no employee gets to do. No employee gets to say, if you don't pay me, I will stay here and take your resources away from you and put them in.
I'm not sure that's what he has said. I think he has said that he already has started XAI, and you could have probably a very interesting governance debate about whether you want your CEO and other people that are part of your management teams to be able to participate in what might be described as extracurricular activities, some of which you might even think are competing with your own business.
No, but that's the part that's the problem. It's the competing. If he wanted to open up a dance studio, we would ask about whether he was distracted, but he wouldn't be taking Tesla's resources. The problem is that he and the board have said that Tesla's future is AI, while setting up a competing AI company that they've pitched as using Tesla's data to develop its own technology. So that is the part where...
Hold on, let's separate that because I'm not sure that's true. I don't believe that XAI is planning to use Tesla's data. I believe that XAI is planning to use
reported it. That's
data from X.
No, Bloomberg reported that he said he was using Tesla's data. So that's the public information that I have.
If he was not using Tesla's data, would you feel differently?
No, because he's already been using Tesla's engineers, so that's another resource. And competition is considered to be a violation of fiduciary duty. You're not supposed to directly compete with the companies that you head. So that's the problem with simply. So if he were saying, I will quit, and this is what you need to get me to stay, that would absolutely be fine. And so as far as handing employees bonuses at the end of the year, those kinds of things, those all have that same forward-looking component. They're to motivate the employee going forward. But Tesla's sort of explicitly saying, we're not negotiating this package.
But it was working for 5 years. For 5 years he did that.
He did that
and
for 5 years.
And he hit every number in the thing. He hit every single number.
The point is
and nobody
that
would have ever brought this case had he not hit the numbers. That's the point of this. That's what's so wild about this bizarre situation.
I think they brought the case before all the metrics were hit. But the problem here is that at this moment in time, Tesla said we did not negotiate and we did not design this as a forward-looking package. We may still design a forward-looking package. In fact, they almost certainly will be putting into place some kind of new forward-looking package. And if that's what's going on, then we're still left with, well, what are you paying this old package for? That, again, a court, it may be overturned on appeal, but it hasn't been yet. A court found he violated his fiduciary duties to achieve.